Good morning, class. I just got finished watching the World Trade Center video, and it was honestly pretty eye-opening. I was 8 years old when that tragedy happened, and I never thought about the building construction. I never thought about why it happened or how the building was created. You hear all the conspiracy theorists talking about how jet fuel doesn't melt steel beams, and that's about the extent of ever what anyone's looked into it. So seeing this video and actually looking at the architecture and how it was built was very interesting to me. A lot of things led to the collapse, clearly starting with a plane flying into it. But the World Trade Center was built with tube-like construction instead of typical high-rise with more steel throughout the entire structure. They had a lot of structural steel in the center where all the egress points were, where there's elevator stairwells all in the very center of the building, and then prefab steel on the outside that made it cheap and quick for them to be able to build these huge buildings. After the planes flew in, there was leaking aviation kerosene throughout the whole building. There's elevators that the cables have been snapped and falling all the way to the ground. During the video, it had the elevator engineer talking about how they were falling stories after stories and people coming out with hair on fire, and it's just an insane scene that happened. It was crazy to me that the explosions from everything got rid of a lot of the fire protection that was on those steel beams. It showed a lot of the steel in the salvage yard afterwards, and there's very little to none of the fire protection fibers that were typically blown on to these steel beams, and they're all gone. So with the steel beams being exposed to that extreme heat, they're able to warp, expand, and not have any protection, which led to part of the collapse. It was crazy to me that a building so big was made with prefab trusses for the floors. It's kind of amazing that they were able to get those all the way up there, all prefab, but the biggest issue is we all know with trusses they fail very quickly, whether it's with the roofs of the wood construction we deal with, to even the trusses that were made to build one of the tallest buildings ever created. But as those steel trusses began to heat up, they failed. As one floor failed, more failed, and eventually it just had the exterior walls that were also made that prefab steel, and so much more of the fire load and the load went from being held by the floors to all on the outside steel, which made it very unstable, which eventually caused it to fail.